For people working around confined spaces, you may have heard some talk lately about the use of secondary fall protection devices. So what is a secondary fall protection device and when should it be used? So let's look at this scenario. This is quite a common scenario for people needing to work in confined spaces that are below ground. So imagine that there's a hole in the ground here. There's maybe a shaft or a pit or a tank down below. And old mate here needs to descend into that confined space to do their work. Now, what we've got here is a tripod. This is the tripod. We've got a winch on one of the legs of the tripod. There's a cable that goes up over a pulley, and that cable comes down and is connected to the back of the person's harness. That's a pretty common setup. Now this person, there's no ladder to go into the confined space, so they need to be lowered using the winch into that confined space. So I'm going to wind that handle on the winch and just lower that person down. Imagine they've gone a fair way down. And let's imagine now that the winch fails. So let's say they're halfway down quite a deep shaft, and it's not a good day for old mate here. The winch has failed, and what's happened here is I've got a secondary device connected to them. So that's a backup device. A secondary device is a backup device. So my secondary device is connected to this spreader bar. So this section here is a spreader bar. The spreader bar connects to the shoulder loops on their confined space shoulder loops on the harness. And what that is designed to do is it makes it easier to get somebody in and out of a very narrow confined space. So imagine it's a shaft that's very narrow, it's very, very tight. And imagine that the person has, this person's got no head, but imagine they banged their head and hopefully not severed it off, but they bang their head, they're unconscious, and they need to be retrieved out of that confined space. The spreader bar holds them a bit more upright using those shoulder loops than if they were connected to the rear D-ring. So the spreader bar is pretty handy. Now on top of the spreader bar there, we've got a line which goes up over a pulley, and it comes down to this housing here. Now this device is what we call a Type 3 fall arrestor, or a Type 3 self-retracting Lifeline, or a Type 3 SRL, or a Retrieval SRL. They're all the same thing. It operates like a standard self-retracting Lifeline under normal operation. So that means the cable comes down and follows the person, and it self-retracts back up. So that's great. It's not getting tangled up on things, and you're not tripping over it. It's sort of out of the way all the time. However, if the primary device fails and you suddenly plummet, that device will lock on and arrest the fall. So it's a fall arrestor. Now, at that point, imagine the person is like halfway down that deep shaft potentially. So they're kind of stuck there at that point. You know, you then need to be able to get them out. And of course, the primary winch has failed. So this retrieval device incorporates a winch in it that we're going to deploy now to retrieve the person out. So the way to do that is to flip that handle around. So this is going to be the handle on the winch once we deploy it. And to deploy it, we pull this pin here and we push this in, and then we start to wind the handle, and it's now a winch. So I can safely retrieve old mate here from inside that confined space using that Retrieval SRL. So that's my secondary device, and I would use that every time in case my primary device fails. All of this equipment is part of the 3M brand of confined space entry gear or fall protection gear. Specifically, it's part of the Protecta range within the 3M brand. It's good equipment. That harness there is actually an Australian-made product that's made in Sydney. There's not much safety gear that's made in Australia these days. That's one. If you'd like further information on confined space entry equipment, speak to the crew at your local SafetyQuip branch. If you'd like one of the SafetyQuip workplace safety vans to come out to your workplace to talk about this gear or other confined space entry gear or fall protection gear, speak with the crew at local branch to book it in, and we'd love to assist.